Welcome back to the Blossoming Classroom. Today, I really want to talk to you about how the brain works. It kind of explains why children have some of these big emotions and outbursts, how they go from 0 to 100 in a flip of a switch. It also kind of explains how us as teachers are not consistent in the classroom, because some of the things that don't bother us in the morning, which we're ignoring just fine, in the afternoon gets on our last nerve, and then we're correcting about it. Or as parents, after a long day, we are correcting our children a lot more than we would first thing in the morning when everyone's a little bit more fresh. So the brain has two parts. We have the right side of the brain, which is our emotion center, and we have the left side of our brain, which is our logic center. I want to talk about two different things with the brain. The first part is the fact that we have neurons running between the right and left side of the brain, and they fire at a certain rate. So when we are refreshed, when we have had good rest, good meals, a good time, our neurons are usually firing at a pretty fast rate. When we are exhausted, maybe we've had a challenging day, we're getting frustrated, what's happening is that those neurons are slowing down. And so our brain is no longer feeling balanced. And we're getting those irritable snippiness that I was talking about. In children, we might see a lot of whining, a lot of tattling, crying, hiding away in the corner, or we're going to see this escalated behavior going up, up, up that we can't quite bring back down. We also notice that when a child is having these behaviors and we try to talk to them about it, their behaviors escalate. And it's because when those neurons aren't firing back and forth at the rapid rate they need to be, your words feel like acid on the brain. They can't process them, and so they get more and more frustrated. And that goes back to some big body play that I've talked about before. So how do we get the right and left side of the brain to kind of reconnect and get those neurons firing back and forth? Those are called brain breaks. And that's a video that's also in this series. So I've talked about that extensively. And when we use those brain breaks in our classroom, at home, or even at work, it helps your brain to then balance so that you can be more productive in your day. The other thing I want to talk about is that the right side, as I spoke to you about a minute ago, is your emotion center. And that's where you process everything that you experience in your world. And it's the brain's job to get your emotions from the right side of the brain over to your logic center, which is the left side of the brain. So an example would be you're learning to drive and you have to slam on your brakes and your heart is racing and you're very shook up about it, but you talk to your teacher who's helping you to drive, you go home and you talk to your best friend on the phone, you talk to your mom, you talk to your dad, and the next time you're out driving and you slam on your brakes, you're like, oh, I've done this before, it's okay. You verbally have processed the experience, and that is one way to get your emotions from the right side of your brain to the left side of the brain. The other way is to journal. So once you've gone to school and you've learned to write, you can journal out your emotions. And that's another way to move them over to the left side of the brain. But if you're in preschool, you're 3, or you're in pre-K and you're 4, or maybe you're pre-K, kindergarten age, you're kind of 5, you don't have the extensive vocabulary to journal. But what you can do is you can offer them a page, a blank page, and then offer them a variety of color of crayons. And you can ask the child to choose the color that represents how they're feeling and just scribble away on the page. To scribble hard, scribble fast. They may choose a variety of colors because their feelings may be more like a rainbow at that moment. And that's okay, because having them color in that way, again, moves that emotion from the right side to the left side. And the last way that we get emotions to move is through working our body physically. So as a teenager or an adult, we may work out at the gym as we're getting very frustrated or upset. Small children, we're going to see them hitting their friends, throwing toys, destroying the classroom. And that's where we want to direct them to the big body play that we talked about earlier in another video, so that they can physically work out their emotions. When you give them this outlet, then they're able to process their emotions. We just talked about verbalizing our experiences. But how do children verbalize their experiences when they may not have the vocabulary to verbalize, and they may not have enough experiences to share what they've gone through? And this comes back to puppet play. You will find a video in this series titled Puppet Play that you can watch. We just want to be very careful that we do not coach around feelings. We're not therapists, we're not behavioral specialists. So we want to model how to express our feelings with puppets. And we want to let the children express themselves however they want to without correction. So this is just a small introduction into how the brain works, as to why children may have some big behaviors in your classroom that feel like they go from 1 to 100 so quickly. Their neurons may not be firing fast enough, in which we would want to take a brain break. Or they may have too many emotions in the right side of the brain that haven't moved over to the left side of the brain. And so we want to work with them with puppet play, coloring, or big body play to help them express themselves to get those emotions to move over.